Alright, so this question tells us determine the distance traveled north, and the distance traveled west by a yacht sailing at a bearing of 325 degrees for 87 kilometers. So they want to know what is the distance traveled north. Oops, sorry. Supposed to go the other way. What is the distance traveled north? Oh boy. What distance is traveled north, right? And the distance traveled west, right? The boat which was here, it traveled at the sailboat. It traveled at a bearing of 325 degrees bearing, right? So when you're doing bearings, let's start as knowing the bearings. A bearing, an entire circle, has degrees of 360. But if we go towards a bearing of 325, actually what it means is you go in this direction. So let's say out here it'll be 90 degrees, then down here it'll be, if it is going south it'll be 180 degrees, or if it's going this way it'll be 180 degrees plus 90 degrees, which is like 270. But it's going at, let's say, it's at 300, this angle here, it's going at 325, right? So since this is an entire circle, we want to find what is the distance, what is the angle between here. So we would say 360 minus 325 would be something like 35 degrees, right? So let's make this thing look more, how to say, so the boat is going really and truly, yeah, it's going that direction, but they want to know how did it go north, how much did it go north, and how much did it go west. So I think of something called SOHCAHTOA. Why I think of something called SOHCAHTOA? Because in this angle here makes 90 degrees. So I'm thinking this is a right angle triangle, and the distance that the boat is moving this way at 365 degrees, that would be the hypotenuse, right? So let me just label this hypotenuse, and then the opposite angle, the opposite side to this angle right here, we could label it as the opposite, and we could label this side as the adjacent, right? Right. So I remember something that I used to do called SOHCAHTOA, and with SOHCAHTOA, what you will find is this would mean sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tan is opposite over adjacent. So from this stuff, I notice, alright, I know what is a hypotenuse. So we have hypotenuse here. We want to find its side at a time, right? Notice that the adjacent would be north, and the opposite would be west, right? So we know what is the hypotenuse, which is what? 87 kilometers, as stated, 87 kilometers. And we do not know what is the, we can say x or whatever it is. We'll just keep it adjacent. We do not know what is north. We don't know what is north. But do we know the angle? Yes, we know the angle is 35. So from that information, we can create one equation to solve what the distance it went north. So what I like to do, I like to say, okay, I like to write my equation first. And so that cosine is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse, right? And so my adjacent in that case would be what? North, right? So I would say north, or distance north, over the hypotenuse, which was 87 kilometers. And I would say the cosine of 35 degrees, right? So we make north the, how to say it, subject of the formula. And how we would do that, we would probably like multiply by the reciprocal. Let's say times 87 on that side, and this will cancel, and you also multiply by 87 on this other side, right? And so let's solve what is cosine 35. Oh, matter of fact, before we do that, this is what I like to do. Before we do that, I don't want to, how to say it, run the gun too fast, right? Let's calculate what is cosine 35. And cosine 35 would be, oh boy, cosine 35, right? Cosine 35 would be something like 0.81915. 0.1915. Okay, so cosine would be 0.81915. is equal to north over 87 kilometers. And I want to make north the subject of the formula, so I have to multiply by everything on that, because I want to take out the 87 on that side. So it'll be 87 kilometers. And so we'll have north is equal to, well, north is equal to something like 71 point, okay, let's just do it quick on the calculator. Times, let's say we multiply this by 87. The answer would be something like 71.266. But if we round off, it would be something like 71.27 kilometers. Now that is for the distance north. So we found what the distance north would be, and it's interesting. So 71.27 kilometers. Right? It's interesting that we could find that for the north, because it makes sense. The hypotenuse is usually, it's always the longest side of a right angle triangle, and so we can easily find what's the opposite. Can you see anything over here that we could use to solve the opposite? Yes, we have. We know the adjacent, but I like to use. Let's use this one. I like using the original side, like the hypotenuse that was giving us the original number. So we knew what the hypotenuse was. It was 87, and we do not know what the opposite was, which is west. And the sine is the same angle here, which is the 35-degree angle, and sine would be the 35-degree angle. So again, we're gonna rewrite the equation, and let me just see how I can just delete everything here. Let me just rewrite this equation. Yeah, I'll rewrite this equation. This thing is hard. Headache too. Okay, so we're using the h so h, right? It's gonna really help in CXC. So let's write it out first. So sine equal to the opposite over hypotenuse, right? And so doing what is the opposite, we do not know, because the opposite side, remember, it's the one of the west, right? It's that side. So we have sine 35 degrees equal to the opposite, which is west. Let's just call it west for that case, over the hypotenuse, which is 87 kilometers, right? And then let's see what is sine 35. Sine 35 would be sine 35 would be 0.5735. So let's say 0.5736, right? We just rounded off quickly. So sine would be 0.5736, and west over 87 kilometers. You multiply by the reciprocal, Jabari's favorite word. Cancel off here, and what you do on that side, you also have to do on the other side. Km, and that would give us that west is, let's multiply it. Multiply this by 87. It would give us 49.90. 49.90. Okay, so the both 49.90 kilometers, right? This is also the same as west is equal to 49.90 kilometers, and so we have 49.90 kilometers right here. Yeah, so that's the answer, and it makes sense. If you want to recheck your answer, we can always recheck the answer. You can recheck it using a squared plus b squared equal to c squared, which is the Pythagoras theorem. Or you could even put these values in and figure out what is the sine. What sine do you how many degrees you would get. So yeah, that's how you solve it. And notice the hypotenuse is always the biggest side, and the other side, sometimes the adjacent is bigger than the opposite. Thank you very much. I think that's it. So just remember, SOHCAHTOA, very important. And the more you do it, the better it is, the more practice you get from it.